Yeah, so like for my fans, they haven't seen me in a while, and for anybody that watches regularly would notice like right now I have a different background because I've moved to a
Hmm.
different location. I've had a lot going on in my life, a lot of like life changes, and my office has moved to a different section of the house, and I haven't really built the my office
I'm in the
yet.
same boat. I'm moving as well in 4 weeks, so that's why it's kind of empty in the back. I have
Yeah,
boxes over here.
in media they always say white backgrounds are the worst, so I'm like, well, we at least we contrast ourselves with the black chairs and black shirts or whatever, so whatever. I mean, I have researched through your website and stuff, and but I do want you to dive into, before the comic, like what do you do with like you have a kind of an awesome history of things, projects that you worked on that a lot of people would recognize, and if you just want to fill us in,
Yeah.
like, and you can get into the nitty gritty of like what is it that you actually do and how does that compare to the whole of like how these games and other things that you do are created.
Oh yeah, that's a long story. Yeah, I can do the sweet short stuff, kind of
Sure.
to get to the point.
But yeah, who are you
So
and
yeah.
where are you at? And
Well,
we'll
yeah,
start from
my name is
zero.
Martin. My name is Martin Kupski. I'm a creative director at Nodbrim Interactive, which is like the company that I and my friend founded 2015, if I can remember. But my career started even like way before that. I've been in the business of entertainment, or whatever you want to call it,
That's
for
what I call
over
it. Yeah.
yeah,
The
over
broad.
18 years. Like you can't really be working on one thing, being a creative, because you kind of have to branch out sooner or later. Especially when it comes to comics, I learned that you can't really live off of it most of the time unless you're like a big hotshot. So yeah, my bread and butter has always been gaming and making games. So that's kind of where I've been most of my career. But before that, I started with visual effects for films and commercials. I bet you know Hellboy 2. I worked on that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Ninja Assassin, 10,000 BC, like bunch
Yeah, these are
of
big movies.
big movies, but they're not really good. Like Hellboy 2 is probably the one that I'm okay with, but the others I'm like, I'm not really too proud of him. But it's not my movie anyway, so that doesn't matter. Worked on commercials such as like Stimrol, Coca-Cola. Uh, can't remember them all. Like a lot of Lego, like bunch of Legos during 2010s, something like that.
Like
Yeah,
commercials for Lego?
yeah. I spent 3 or 4 years just doing plastic, 3D plastic, so animating those. So that was fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Star Wars was one of the biggest properties we touched. That was like right up when the first what was it called? Force Awakens, when that one hit the
Okay, so
theaters.
like post Lucas,
Yeah, yeah.
the
So
first
we were
one that
right
was
up
like outside of
past
him.
they
Okay,
actually like when Disney bought the rights, we were like
gotcha.
in the middle of doing Lego stuff for them.
And this
So that
is
was
like your company that or that you
no, that
started?
was for
Oh,
someone else. That's
okay,
before
this is pre that.
we
Okay,
bought it.
okay.
Yeah. Then I worked at IO Interactive. That's when I started to dip my toes into video games, doing UI and stuff like that. So a game probably most people heard of is Hitman Absolution.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then I moved on and worked on smaller things and some MMOs and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. I work as a for hire like UI artist, UI designer,
So
and
what
then
exactly to those that aren't in this realm at all, what does UI actually mean? Like
well,
what are the software you're using in a sense, or like what are you building?
that depends. For
Okay.
gaming, it's different. Like when you work on games, well, technically you use the same tools. I use Figma, which is a software where you kind of build up the UI and functionality wise, so you can test it out and stuff. But most of the time, I use Photoshop and Illustrator just to kind of do the illustrative stuff, so you can show mock-ups and stuff like that for people in the team. Then you actually build the UI inside the engine you're using. The engine can vary a bit depending on the project or company. I use Unreal and Unity. Unity is for my own company because it's smaller, easier to work with as an indie. Unreal is nice. It's different. So it has, they both have drawbacks and like stuff. I mean, it's kind of hard to summarize everything you do in UI as like a sentence or two. But
No,
like
yeah, I get you.
in general, basically, if people don't know what UI stands for, it's user interface. It's the way you interact with the video game. So like menus, buttons, HUDs, interfaces where you can, there are crosshairs, numbers,
Okay, so you're
how you
actually
communicate to the player, basically.
s- sort of the actual visual design of the
Yeah,
functionality of the game.
yeah.
So it's not character design, it's not the step-by-step script function of the story or
No,
the
exactly.
narrative. You're basically, it's like, what does the menu look like? Or what
But
is
there's a funny
the...
part. I have a handle in the UX as well, which is the user experience of the game. That's a
Okay.
totally different field. I usually do both because I tend to work with smaller companies and they don't have enough to kind of bring in both fields. So I do both. User experience dabbles in everything, but it's more out of perspective of the player. So how an experience can be improved and changed to be like better utilized and stuff like that. Also, like things like accessibility for people who are handicapped or like have different disabilities that interfere with the experience of the game. So
Oh,
like
okay. Like
yeah,
if you
so
can't
color
hear
blindness and stuff
or
like
can't
that.
see certain colors or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's also a thing. But like for my own company, I do everything except for programming. So there I handle sounds, art. I do everything from like design. I do all the design documentation and all that stuff. So
I
yeah.
know this might be like somewhat more complex or to explain real fast, but like if I were to write the a script of like a game, got all the branching narratives or something like that, what's sort of the first step? If you're saying like if you don't do the programming, like what's kind of the in the first thing that has to happen before it gets to you? Like what's done at the more like the foundational level or like the skeleton of the game? Like what's that called and who does that? Or like
Foundation, when you're talking about actually making the game itself or the documentation or like the planning stage, because there are like everything goes simultaneously as we do the development. That's why I'm not doing everything myself. I have my programmer friend who's doing the code as I plan, and then we communicate back and forth on what's doable and not, and
maybe
then we
that answers it to where it's like there is no first
yeah.
step. It's like everything happens all at once. Like you
Yeah,
have to
you
do
can you
everything at
kind
the
of
same time.
that's the fun part of doing a game. It's like you have so many possibilities in the beginning, and then you funnel it in and remove all the possibilities until you actually have a set goal on what you're doing. If you
Okay.
That explains it.
No, yeah.
So,
It's I'm trying to think like if you because I know nothing about this. It's like
yeah,
you're saying you do things starting off in Photoshop and Illustrator, and like obviously the things I know are like more movies and comic books, and it's like you might start with a storyboard or start with,
yeah,
sketches.
also
And with
scripts.
games, it's like I guess you would do the same thing, like kind of illustrating or building it in a 3D model or something like that.
I would say you start with a game design document where you do as little as possible to kind of do a short synopsis. If you talk scripts language,
Okay.
so you write a synopsis of what the game is going to be, and then you kind of try to hone in on the fun you want to create because games are fun most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, and so you want to like find that hook and then work on that and kind of like, extrapolate from what you want to do, and then create features, and then you start building basically.
So
Usually the graphics are like in the middle of creation. In the beginning, you can just start with whatever you have, like stick figures, whatever, just so you kind of get the ball rolling.
yeah, that's what I was wondering is like, is there a separation from sort of the person that's building the stick figure game and someone that's like the illustrator or what you might call the artist of the game, where you're looking at like what does the
Depends on the
setting
team.
and
Like,
background, okay.
yeah, I
Uh
mean, for our case, I'm doing everything except for the programming part. So that's an easy way to separate things. Then you have the one man gun, who like the person who does everything themselves, and then
hmm
you have like a full team of, I know, we can granulate this how much you want. Like you can have a rigger, you can have an animator, you can have a 3D artist, shader guy, like render experts. You can like specialize as much as you want,
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
but then
So
you can
how
also, yeah.
for like your games, how big of a team do you use and how long does it take to go from basically idea to finished product?
Our games usually tend to be just me and Christopher, and then we hire in like a sound guy who's doing the music and sound design, because usually I don't have time for that. And then voice acting. Like I love voice actors. I love to work with them, and they're always fun to add in. So that's kind of like, I'm working on an idea now that's gonna be all voice acting basically. So it's, yeah,
Nice.
that's kind of a passion thing for me. I love voices. So
Well, that's cool because like people will see like whenever I did ads for my comic book a few years ago, I had a comic series called Liquid Kill that a lot of people thought was a video game based upon sort of the way I advertised it and showed the art. And a lot of people are like, I love indie games and I can't believe that you were able to get this off the ground. I'm like, it's not a game, guys. Like it's a comic series, it's a graphic novel. Like the finished product, what you're gonna see is not a game. It just looks really cool. The graphics are great. Or I like the illustration. But what was interesting is that people were implied through that there are people like you that are just like a comic team, 1 to 3 people, and then we hire out, some of the others. We might hire a colorist or whatever, but the main creative team is just a core group of possible sometimes just one person. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I did not realize that you could build something like that. I just figured it was something that would be like trying to animate your own feature film. Like it would just take forever, you
it
know?
takes forever. Well, like it feels like forever while you're in it. Like last game we did was the Foretold. That took about 3 years ish.
Yeah,
We
and to
had a,
me, that's not unreasonable at all. Like that's for
yeah.
yeah, that's
I mean,
awesome
if you
that you
do a
can do
graphic
that.
novel, it takes about that time, because if it's a chunky book, it takes a while to actually illustrate it. I mean, this one, Armatus, is just like the first act of three, which I'm planning on kind of finishing within a year or two from now. So, yeah, this one took about a year to actually just write the script for the whole thing. And this final book is going to be 200 pages plus ish.
Oh, you're talking
So,
about your comic
yeah, yeah,
series. I
the
was
comic
thinking
book. Yeah, yeah.
the games.
So the games are different because they're like, there's so many bits and pieces that need to kind of fall in and work together. And once you release the game, it's not really done until you've ironed out all the bugs. And like, because people always find stuff you never found yourself. So that's very different from the comic book stage, because once you release a book, it's kind of done. You're
Yeah,
released and
no
you're
one's
going
coming
on
back
to
and
the
being like,
next.
the user
Yeah,
experience of this book was a little off towards the end. Can you adjust that?
yeah, yeah. There's no patches and stuff for comic books. Like for video games, you can always kind of tweak and stuff, change stuff after the fact. But the problem there is that you're never finished, and I hate that feeling, because it's always like, oh shit, gotta tweak things and help people out if they have bugs and like issues with the product. And then you feel bad about it because you're taking money from people and they're not getting the full experience that you wanted to give them. So that's also like a little like
No, yeah, that's
there's
interesting.
always like people talk about within the gaming industry that the release blues you get after you release the game because you spend so much time on it, and once it's released, it's kind of out of your hands. But I also feel bad about it for some odd reason. So yeah.
Well, I think we have the same thing in the publishing industry as well. That makes
Mhm.
me, I often notice, a lot of the methods that I've used as far as marketing and releasing and like sort of once you finish a product, whether it's a book or a game or a movie, how do you then get it to your audience and how do you grow your audience and how do you like
That's the
whatever?
biggest
And
problem right now.
I want to know what have you done and not just with the book, we'll get to that, but also
Oh
like
yeah.
how do you whenever you're saying like you kind of launch a game, like what is the actual like mechanisms that you use to sort of get that to people? Like literally, do you just put it on Steam? Do you
No.
partner with somebody that basically tries to get it out to places? Like what's that process? Because we can often mimic these steps in other mediums, like with comic books and things like that.
Yeah, like for us, we've tried both worlds. We've done our own publishing where we did like everything ourselves with the press releases and stuff like that. That's all you often like the big first one step you do is a press release. You're doing a game, whoa, 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 and you kind of
Gotcha.
need to
Yeah,
find a
before it's
hook.
done.
Yeah, you need to find a hook, kind of what's different from everything else out there. So you need to find something that kind of gets people interested in the IP, and you as a developer or like a person who's working on a comic book, you need to find something that kind of gets people going. That I mean, it's kind of hard nowadays because everything's done almost. So you
Yeah,
kind
I
of take
know.
tidbits from other projects that you like and kind of mash them into each other and kind of. I like to blend genres because that's kind of my thing. I love world building, and that's my thing. So that's kind of I'm trying to hook people with something that is a little bit different, not always the
Okay.
same. But everybody does different things, of course. So for games, it's different because you have mechanics. Those are the big hooks because people want to play games that are new and exciting, not just thematically or story wise. Because usually players don't give a shit about. Sorry, can I swear here?
Yeah, you're good.
uh, People usually don't give a shit about story in games. That's debatable, but like I'm talking broad strokes.
Yeah, yeah.
So like games tend to be mechanically very heavy and important when it comes to marketing because that's usually where the hook is. And I tend to go the opposite way, except for like the last game. Mostly because I'm more of a story kind of a guy. Yeah. So
So you do the press release and you sort of organize or, set it
oh
up
yeah.
to where you try to make that press release sort of hookish. And what are you going to focus on? Is it sort of
Yeah,
the,
then later on, of course, you get the ball rolling with social media and all that stuff. I mean, you have to do that about a year or so before you actually release the product. So you need to have something to show every time you kind of post new updates or stuff like that to kind of build an audience. And then we funnel that audience to wish list on Steam, for example. Uh,
okay.
and then once we get hit a certain number on the Steam wish list, you kind of hit the release button and hope for the best. Of course,
So it's
there's a
almost like pre-orders through Steam
kind of, but
in a
like
way, or it's almost, but they're not ordering it. They're just implying that they might be
yeah,
interested in
it's
this.
an intent of purchase in a
Yeah.
way,
Okay.
and then you kind of hope. Usually, my calculations is like 10% if you're lucky buy the game, so you
Oh,
need to kind
wow.
of
Okay.
you keep that into account.
Actually,
Uh,
that's not too bad, I guess. It's better than
But then again,
1%.
like the wish list isn't like over once you've released, but you
Yeah.
have like a fallout uh, period where after release you do the sale periods along the year. So we do like a Halloween sale, a Christmas sale, or whatever. And
Gotcha.
then you lower the price gradually till you hit the different thresholds for the wish list people who want the game but don't necessarily want to buy for that price.
Yeah, I
That's
get
why
you.
you usually get a higher price games nowadays, because you have more leverage on doing the sales gradually.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, very few. Or it has to be a super crusher game for people to be like, yeah, I'll
yeah,
pay $80 for this one when I never know in
yeah.
3 months it's going to be half off at least.
It's a very different world out there on the market compared to comics, because you don't really have that ecosystem where you have a storefront that kind of promotes your stuff. Because what I've seen, there's not much digital comics. They're not as popular as physical, not for me at least. Uh, I tend to stay buying physical mostly, and I get all my information from like Twitter. Or not, I've stopped Twitter. Blue Sky, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I mean I get most of my news from social media. I don't go to any even
Yeah,
for comics, it's like I don't go to Bleeding Cool or really like the common like kind of news sites for comics.
yeah.
I know that that's a huge one and whenever I have one to release, I try to get things on there. But yeah, me personally, it's like sort of just out of my way to go and read information that if I really cared about it, I would have seen it amongst my friends that talk about this stuff on X or the other social medias that I have. But yeah,
Mhm.
so now fill me in on when did you get into comics? What's the book that's out now? And what have you done to basically create it and then market it? And where does that bring you today?
God, yeah. Where did I get into comics? I think it started off with Spider-Man back when I was like 13 or something.
Okay.
I really don't remember exact issue or anything like that. I remember that was Todd McFarlane did the cover, so I don't remember which issue that was, but that was like the first thing I started
I've
off
heard a
with.
few people have gave me that answer where it was Todd McFarlane's
Yeah.
Spider-Man run that really got him
He
into
has
it.
this style that kind of speaks to a inner child, like the youngster kind of wanting to something cool and different. Because
Yeah.
that back then there wasn't really that much. And then I leaned into Spawn when he started the Image Comics thing and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I've been through that with Witchblade and tried to stay with them, because I didn't wasn't never really like a big comic book fan when it comes to superheroes. I've always kind of leaned into the indie stuff because I love different weird wacky stories.
Yeah, I'm right
Uh,
there with you.
yeah, it's like the only superhero I can muster is like Batman. I have quite a lot of Batman, but that's
Yeah, that's funny. That's mostly if I of the superheroes, it's mostly Batman.
yeah. He has a particular kind of pizzazz compared to the other superheroes.
I don't
Uh,
like powers, honestly. It's like him
no,
and
yeah, yeah.
Punisher are sort of just realistically,
Punisher's pretty good.
it's just, they're just kind of badasses in a sense, or,
Yeah,
gadgets and stuff. But when did
they're
you get
just
into
angry
creating
dudes.
comics?
Yeah, what made me create, like, it's actually started just what was it, 2023 ish. That's when I
Oh, whoa,
kickstarted
yeah.
my,
You're
yeah. I'm
recent.
pretty new to this.
Okay.
So I've been drawing a lot, but I've never drawn like a full on comic from start to finish. I've always done like a page or panels or so just for fun, and never thought of actually doing a book until I met Thomas, who's my friend doing the publishing. Um, so he encouraged me to actually we hit off from Twitter back in the day. So we just started talking about passion things like aliens and Warhammer and all those IPs, because we love those things. So we started off working on Grimland, which is the universe we wanted to create to facilitate the different comics we wanted to make. So we created a universe to make comics within, which kind of speaks to me because I want to world build
Yeah,
and
sounds
create
like a
stories.
video game designer's entry into comics is building the
Yeah,
world first.
I got hooked, so to speak. So Thomas wrote the first book. I drew the first book, which was GRIMLAND Ascension. It's also available on the Kickstarter, and that's yeah. So that's a I would. The thing is, like, Grimland is a such a loose world where all the stories we're gonna release are their own thing. So they're all standalone. They're not kind of connected in any way, unless we do like a little homage or like a reference thing. But you don't have to read the last one in order to read this the new one or something like
Gotcha.
that. So,
Yeah, yeah. They're each standalone.
yeah, except for Armatus because it's split into three acts because
Gotcha.
yeah, of
And the
reasons.
one that's live now of Armatus,
Yeah.
that is that the first act that's live now?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
88-page book, uh, which covers like the first act of the story, and then it kind of nicely ends where the next one begins, and they're like you can read it back to back as a one whole book. But I felt it ended off nicely as three parts, so that's why I split it up. Also, it's easier to do shipping when the book isn't like a ton big lump of package.
Yeah.
So that's also a thing that we noticed that shipping is going to cost us a leg and a fortune. So also that's
Yeah, how many of your audience is in Sweden and how many are in the
there are
US
pretty
or
few in
outside?
Sweden. Most of the people in Sweden are like either relatives or friends of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah.
where's most of your audience coming from?
As far as I've seen, I haven't really looked into the analytics stuff, but I think most of them are the US.
But
Uh,
you allowed the backers to add, like, they'll pay for shipping, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that is hard. That's your tough game is like when someone thinks they're getting, something that's 10 or $20 and then they're like, actually, it's
mm,
another 15 to 20 on
yeah.
top of
It's
that because you're shipping
it's our
overseas.
thing where you getting your book, but like when you hit like the buy button, you always need to kind of calculate the shipping, and that's kind of when we lose people, I guess.
No, yeah, I know exactly how it goes. As both a person that's buying and selling, or it's just like I know I'm gonna lose you. That's where it's like I was gonna get into more of the what have you learned from this campaign? Like as far as what would you change for your next act? Like, do you think you might try to do something to minimize that difference or to not minimize, but to sort of lessen that gap to where like maybe offering something that's like cheap for you to ship but might have value to them to where if you're like, well, the book comes with a paper map or like stickers or something
Yeah,
to where it's
that's the
like,
thing. Like once you add more stuff to it, you
then
add
that's
weight
more. Well,
and
yeah,
packaging
exactly.
and
Yeah,
all that
it's a
stuff. So it's like you can't really win in that sense. It's like a lose competition where whatever you do, the more you do, the more you lose.
yeah,
So you
exactly.
need to find a sweet spot where like the cost and benefit kind of equals out. And I'm not the math guy. I'm letting Thomas do that. That's the publisher, Bone Idol, handling the shipping and all that stuff, which I'm thankful for because it's a lot of work, and I totally am grateful for the help
Oh
they're
yeah, for
giving.
sure.
But yeah, like we've been at this page doing back and forth with prices and stuff to kind of finding the sweet spot, because you don't want to give it away for free and you don't want it to be overly expensive so nobody will buy it. So it's like also it's a guessing game because you don't really know exactly what people are willing to spend um, at this point. But also you have the tariffs were also a big question mark while we're doing the shipping stuff, and then you have the even though we were sending from the UK, it's also like in the EU, the shipping will cost a little bit extra because of that. There's a lot of logistics
Yeah,
and stuff
I
that kind
know
of
it's
bends.
and if you mess that up by even like a tiny bit, it can somehow, if you
Yeah.
set your price at $14 and then you realize, well, now it's going to cost me $11 to do everything, it can end up in a losing battle.
The good thing is that Thomas has done like I think 13 different campaigns before, so
Oh, you're partner with
he's
somebody
a
that's
yeah,
seasoned in
he's a
this, so they know
routine
what to
guy.
do.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he knows what
So
he's doing. But I don't know, so just kind of listening to his advice and kind of following his orders basically.
what I'm gonna go to your campaign now. You've got oh, you're almost done. So I'm gonna try to
Yeah,
upload
we're almost
this
done.
right now. You got 47 hours, so I'll try to upload this tomorrow so you can at
Yeah, that
least
would
try
be
to
great.
get somebody out there to do your last minute stuff. And is this
Yeah.
your first Kickstarter campaign, or how did you release the other Grimland?
The other Grimland is also on Kickstarter, so that went well. So, but it was a smaller campaign, so it wasn't as much. And we didn't have hard covers; it was just soft covers. But we had two different variants, and they sold out. Like we don't have any copies left now. So,
Oh,
but
okay. And then the
yeah,
creator of this is your publisher, I'm guessing. Like
yeah,
the person running the campaign. Now I get it. Okay. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's
That's how we
not
did it.
you.
No, that's not me.
That's
My
the publisher.
company is not Brim, so I'm a contributor to the campaign. So I'm connected that way.
I got you. Got
It's
now.
easier that way because he's handling all the shipping and all that stuff. So it's better if he has the control.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah. If I were in that boat, I'd be like, yeah, it's in your hands now. Like, just send me the
Yeah.
check. Um,
Well, yeah. I mean, we're friends. So I mean, we're gonna meet up a second time now in real life on Thought Bubble this November. So we're gonna have a table there with
yeah. Okay,
hopefully the
cool.
printed books. So
I was gonna get into that. Like, what do you do as far as physical sales? Like, do you try to get the books into shops? Do you go to the
yeah.
Comic Cons or, like you said, Thought Bubble? Where is Thought Bubble?
The Thought Bubble is in Yorkshire in England. It's like a couple of miles away from Leeds, I believe.
Okay,
So yeah,
England. Yeah, to me,
England. Yeah,
once it's over there, I don't know any of the. You can't be like, oh, it's in this section of
yeah.
England.
I've
I'd be
been
like,
in the
I
UK quite a lot, so I've
okay,
actually lived in London for a while. So yeah,
yeah,
it's like a second home for me. So but yeah, I mean, we'll be there for like the whole weekend, and we'll see how many people will show up. I mean, it's one of the biggest comic book conventions in the UK.
yeah.
So
I have heard of it, and
yeah,
there's people that go overseas for it.
yeah,
The bigger the bigger creators more often,
yeah.
but
I'm planning
um,
on printing some like special things just to bring there, not connected to the campaign. So that's going to be a little bit fun to kind of hand out some like small cards and stuff like that.
I was gonna say, I was
Hopefully,
like, do you have like, what if someone wanted to physically buy one of your games? Would you be able to like bring a
physically,
uh
I don't have any physical copies of my games. I have printed posters on my walls. That's the closest I get to a printed
can
version.
you but can you turn them into compact CDs or something like that to play on PC? Does that even exist anymore?
Could I could, but that would be costly, and I don't know if that's feasible. I mean, yeah.
I guess
I
you could do a
mean,
QR code to where people could download it.
yeah, of course, that's doable, but it's also kind of pointless because you can just buy it on Steam, and then that's all kind of finished.
Yeah, but
I get
whenever
the
you're at
idea.
the event, there's always people that I feel like because I have a ton of stuff that's either on like movies. I don't have
Yeah,
physical Blu-rays of the films. And people will say, well, how do I buy your movie? Is it on Netflix or whatever? And it's like, well, the one's on Tubi, this one's here, but they're like, but I want to support you as a creator. I don't want to
that's
support
true. That's true.
those things. I don't care. I don't want to give money to Amazon. I want to give it to you, and I want something more personalized.
That is a cool idea, actually. Maybe do like like a business card kind of thing, where
Yeah,
you
that's
just do a
that's what
QR
I do.
code on it, and
Yeah.
then you can just buy a QR code like that.
Yeah, that one of the publishers that I worked with in the past, they were Scout Comics. They created something called comic tags. So they literally made like a keychain with a QR code that if you bought the keychain, you could then have access to a code that basically allowed you to download a digital comic that they turn it in kind of a whole thing. But I use that as basically a way of having people pay me for something that's normally only accessible through a third party by basically giving them a QR code that they
Mm.
pay for something physical that they have, and it just looks like a business card. So you
Yeah,
could do that
that's
with like your other stuff because I feel like if I came up to your booth, I'd be like, all right, you got these books, and then I'd be like, but what's that stuff? Like if you have other art to the other stuff you've done, because like you always at least for me, it's like I always want to flash sort of the bet because no matter like what you're creating, what really draws people's eye is, the big poster of the beautiful artwork, whether it's and like me, I have great because the art's beautiful women, and I have this one poster and then I'm working on getting a cardboard cutout of another. And that always draws people in. Like they're just like, "Did you make this?" They don't even know what this is, and it's just like, "But yeah, it's like that's me
yeah,
wrote the series, designed that character, like that's all. And then this is this. And then they're just like, well, now kind of whatever else you have going on, even if
yeah.
it's
Then they're
not that
hooked,
story,
basically.
yeah. Now it's like, okay, I'll take the free thing, I'll get a poster, I'll get whatever bundle you have. You can sort of like I talk about the physical aspect with almost everybody because I get sort of some people like for me are really kind of American comic creators that do this like mostly full time. We're all
Yeah,
similar to you in the sense that we have day jobs usually in the creative field where we're either writers or artists or programmers, tech people. And then, but as like a secondary thing, we go on tour with the products that we create. But in some cases, people are like, that is like the actual comic convention and other conventions is sort of the main drive like money maker. And then others are
yeah,
like, it's kind of a useless, like I make everything online. There's kind of no point in going to these events. And like, especially for someone like you who's at it like in Europe to where I'm not exactly sure how it functions or how big comics are there or like how niche it is or like how many people come to your local conventions or like in your town, so to say. Do you even
yeah.
have a comic shop that has
Well, not in this town. That's why I'm moving. I mean,
Dang, okay.
where I'm heading, so I'm gonna be close to Copenhagen as well because they're having their own Comic Con opening again, so that's gonna be big. Uh, and then we have a sci-fi convention every year in my hometown, so that's also a fairly big thing where they have
Okay.
like creator tables and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I was invited to actually have a table there, but I don't. The problem with me is like I'm a workaholic. I need to work,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
you don't have
can't
time
always
to.
sit by a table and kind of do the selling thing. I'm personally not really big on selling stuff, which is also probably why I'm not that good of a salesperson. So I'm
No,
like,
I feel
I
you
just
there.
want people to actually notice this stuff, and I'm often willing to go down and like just kind of hand off stuff in order to kind of get people to be interested in, like freebies and stuff like that, because I
Yeah.
just wanted people to notice and remember what I do, not just buying stuff that I do.
No, that's what I've argued is that it's just another way to grow your audience base. It's not really a moneymaker. It's sort of just
Yeah,
another way to advertise. It's kind of like everyone there is a lead, and you can sometimes just build stronger, more loyal fans at the
yeah.
physical meetups as opposed to just somebody online. And that's
That's
where
why
I argue is
also
beneficial.
that's why I also kind of hand out business cards for free at my own cost, because that's also a form of a lead. Because if they follow me on Mastodon or Blue Sky or even my newsletter, it's always some kind of a connection I still have with the person than just them buying something, because you don't always kind of continue buying stuff once you have something from them. Uh, that's at least how I do. Like, if I buy something from someone, sure, I remember them, but I don't always follow them in
No,
that
yeah, for
sense.
sure. Yeah, I'm like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
so I rather you follow me than me selling you something, because then I later can create a connection with people who actually like what I do.
Yeah, that's actually sometimes, and yeah, that's kind of the whole argument of it is like an email list or just someone that's like sort of a fan for life is almost more valuable than someone that just
Yeah,
buys your $5 book
I just love
one
the
time.
feeling. Like I'm not doing this to become rich. I'm doing this because I love the art. I love to make stuff. I love to kind of express myself. This GRIMLAND stuff is a way for me to express different feelings about politics, economics, religion, things like that. So this particular book, Armatus, is about loyalty to the state and to yourself mainly. So this book is very like personal to me in a way, compared to everything else I've done. Most of the stuff has been passion projects. This is a passion plus project, in my opinion. So that's why I'm happy that I actually reached the goal, because it actually kind of is getting made and finished.
Yeah,
So
I guess now let's dive in deeper on like what you mean by
mm,
the political aspect to this. Like what is the story and then kind of what's the synopsis, so to speak.
yeah, so the short of it is, it's a cyberpunk dystopian nail-biting thriller, set in a very grim place. Everything revolves around a planet called Clandatu, where you follow a person called Armatus. He is a remunerator, which is a data courier, sort of. So he stores data in his head and like moves them from one place to another. Basically, a walking USB stick, but like a little bit more glorified. And then one day he gets a mission from the state that tells him that he needs to steal data from the place where he works, because he's a sleeper agent, or not really a sleeper agent. He's a planted agent in the workforce, so the state can actually keep track of people and what they do and stuff like that. And so he needs to steal this data from Archive, which is the company he works at. And the problem here is that the data he needs to hold exceeds the actual storage capacity he has in his head. So like if you exceed the data storage capacity, you can get like brain rot and die, which isn't really preferable. And and he has like 72 hours to actually get rid of this before he kind of drops dead. But the problem there is like he needs to deliver this in time, which is at another planet. Um, so he has a little bit of trouble there. So I don't want to spoil too much, but
No,
that's
yeah,
kind of how
yeah.
it
That's deep.
starts.
That's
So that's where it falls in. Like he has a loved one, he has loyalty to the state, and he's not really like been hasn't joined the state to as a worker, for the like being a agent. He got recruited as a child because his family kind of signed him off for some reason. I don't want to spoil that either.
gotcha,
So
yeah, yeah. Uh
so there's a lot of like personal stuff mixed in there. So kind of feel it's a typical espionage thriller, but with very like grim and dark themes thrown in.
no, to jump into the more the writing aspect of that, like you wrote this and did the art,
Yeah.
right?
Sorry.
You wrote it and did the artwork?
Yeah, I did everything myself because I wanted to do like one thing that is totally my own. Uh, I've always worked collaboratively with other people, but I felt this one was my thing. It started off as actually a normal novel, so I wrote it 70,000 plus words, And then I decided that this works better as a graphic novel, so I converted the novel into a script, and that's how we got the book.
Wow. So you ever released a novel or tried to publish it as a
No,
novel too?
no, and no one will ever see it ever because I'm not really happy with it.
I have at least two novels just sitting in my
Yeah,
computer that I'm like, I judge the yeah, it's different whenever you can see things visually. It's almost more easily judgeable or like comparable as like this is professional and this isn't, to where like yours looks very professional. It's on par with everything else that's out there. Whereas if I
thank
look at
you.
my novel work, I'm like, this just is not good enough. I just don't read enough novels to where like what I'm comparing it to is like truly like the best novels ever written. So it's just like me, it's just it just doesn't compare, I guess. And I just am super judgmental, and I'm just like I
Yeah.
sit on them all, and I've converted them into comics anyway.
My
So
partner is super supportive. Like she said, you should publish this, but I said, no, let's do something else with it. So that's why I started with the comic book, and she's been like with me all the way through the whole thing. So that's fun.
that's
Uh,
good. Yeah, for some reason to me it's easier to just write as if I'm giving someone directions or like explaining something as opposed to with novels I feel as if
yeah,
I need to make it more poetic, or I'm more
yeah. The
concerned
prose and
about
everything needs to kind of be nicely written, so
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
it
read
has
it
to
nicely.
have flowers added to
Script
it
is more
somehow.
like a yes, a manual. You kind of read the thing and you know the thing, and then you kind of do the thing on the comic part. It's like
Exactly.
a separate thing. Nobody's gonna read the script; they're gonna read the book.
The
So
thing,
it's like
yeah.
a
It's
separate
like
thing.
logical to where it's like you see this on
Yeah,
the page. Like that this is what is, and the dialogue might be where I might get a bit more interesting or fancy with it. But yeah, I've just never been able to really do prose or novel writing, even though I still do it and definitely
I
did a
love
lot more in
writing
the
prose.
past.
That's not the problem. The problem is like I'm too critical of myself once I actually read my own stuff, and I really don't like that feeling. So, so just
Yeah.
skipping it.
No, yeah, and that's the hard part for me is like then I just don't even want to do the second draft. Like I just go back through it and it's just like too overwhelming where I'm like, I don't really like any of this. Yeah,
Yeah.
but well,
So
the
yeah,
trials
the
and
writing part was
tribulations.
fun. So sorry.
I was just making a general comment of like, oh, the woes of writers. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. I was gonna. I was one thing I saw in your campaign was that you're also doing. Is it a board game or a card game or
Oh,
something
you're
like
breaking
that?
up.
Is that coming
Oh,
next
the
or
card
is that
game.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like that's planned. The thing is like the card game has been finished and laying here for like years now or 2 years. Uh, it's done basically. I just waiting for the right moment to actually release it. Doing a Kickstarter would probably be the best bet,
I
depending on
get you,
how much interest there is.
but not at the
Uh,
same time as you're releasing
yeah,
the book.
I've been at the convention, like a car, like a board game convention with this, and most of the people really liked the game and just asked for where they can buy it. And I'm like, it's not out yet. This is only a prototype. So that was
Yeah.
a good sign. But like, yeah,
Well, that's what I wanted to get into just for a little bit because, like my channel is like I try to focus a lot on sort of the real, not necessarily business aspects, but like the what is it that people are actually doing and try to be a little bit more specific is not totally general, but like with the board games, in the example is like I get a ton of people that have told me to convert specifically my series Liquid Kill into a tabletop game, and
yeah,
because the characters look great, and I'm just wondering like what logistically does it take, like uh do you need to like does yours just all cards or did you create any figures, and then sort of
uh,
what's the
yeah.
I'm not sure, yeah, like the actual physical things that you're building, what all went involved in that.
It depends. I mean, you could. everything is plausible and possible as long as you want it. I mean, I just did the prototype uh, on a whim because I designed it on paper and felt it was nice. I mean, paper, like paper cards, I just cut them out
Yeah.
and drew on them. Um, the art was basically kind of there. I just did some stuff. I decided to do a card game mainly because it's cheaper to do the shipping, do the packaging, and everything. But like adding a board and figures, sure, the cost grows. It's
Yeah, yeah,
harder
that's what
to
I was wondering. I was
sell.
like, is it
Like,
just plain cards or do you have a board involved as
no,
well?
there's no board.
Just
What you
all
see in the
cards.
picture is it's just a mat I printed out for myself. But that
Oh,
could be an
interesting.
added bonus thing if we do a Kickstarter, like a stretch goal to add a mat. But like that's also added shipping cost, which we don't. Yeah, we talked
Yeah,
about this.
everything
Like
just
the more
costs
you
more.
add, the
Yeah.
more you need to kind of calculate that in. So no, like what I tried to do is to fit everything in one little box that is easy to ship. And I order it. I don't remember the site, but they do everything and do the packaging, and like it's all wrapped in plastic, and you kind of get it delivered like it is just from a store.
Okay, so that sums it up to where it's like, okay, if it's just cards, it's basically like you're just printing directions for the game and then the cards. And then so it's
Yeah,
just like
directions are
exactly
like
what
on a
people.
clarion, like a big pile of like a sheet of paper, basically folded.
Okay.
So
And then yeah, since you have been ingrained in the games for a while, like to you converting a story into a game isn't that hard. Like towards me,
I
I'd have
love
to
that
be
shit.
like,
Like
yeah.
I thrive on doing game design. So like I have several games in mind. It's just that it takes time and it costs money. So that's why I don't do too much of it.
No,
Physical games,
yeah.
you know.
But that's it's like so I had to I wrote one game in my career and ultimately they never made it, but it was they I had to write like so many different it's basically like you're writing the same story 50 times or something like that from each different characters like it because the whole
What
point
was
was it
it?
was one of those like each character it was the plot line since it never got bought or made I'll go into it it's kind of like two characters are they basically like wake up sort of trapped in a room and it was supposed to be a one of those choose your own adventure movies to where it was like you
Oh,
start out with one scene with two characters but if you're basically based upon what does this if you're this character then what do I do and the kind of the hook was basically both characters there's like a third kind of mass killer character that is telling them things and then revealing who that character is and then everything
already
else
there
that's
sounds
involved.
very complicated.
Yeah, it gets super complicated fast and it was super hard for me to do. And like I
Yeah.
had to really think about it all and spent a lot of time. It was really frustrating that it kind of like never went anywhere. But yeah, it's interesting that that was like to you like this is just
Yeah.
like what you love and is interesting to me. I was just like I'm never doing this again. Like I'm sticking to just one arc, you know?
No, but like what I do is also I do a lot of consulting and stuff. So I help people out to do things like this. So I mean, there's always like someone reaching out that wants to kind of help with puzzle design and stuff like that. So I've done that recently for a game that came out just a couple of months ago called Post Mortem, uh, and that one is a like a horror game. But that was fun. So I just sat and designed puzzles uh, for like a week or so. So that was nice.
Sat and design puzzles.
Yeah,
Yeah, just your typical off time. That's my favorite
yeah.
pastime, designing puzzles.
Also
That's cool,
getting paid
man.
for it. That's always fun. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, for sure. That's I mean, if I could get into I mean, I can get into almost any hobby, but yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely I also did design one card game, but that's why I was like wanting to get more into detail of like I wasn't exactly sure like with mine, I based it upon I use like a normal 13, suit or whatever we have, the 13, and then
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
whatever it is, I used a regular card deck and then just made that so that to the actual design of the game made sense to where it was like the way each player was playing to make sure it just all the way you won worked naturally like any other card game. And then
Mhm.
I designed it to where it was like, well, instead of the ace, whatever, I had actual characters associated with those cards. So, that made it to where it was like a theme element, but I based it upon
Mm.
like a traditional card deck. But the way just like I read the outline of like your game, it was like it's like characters, and
Yeah,
I was
it's a
just wondering like,
character battle game. Yeah, you have like a crew of three people. Each player chooses like a crew of three guys, and then you battle against each other depending on the stats you have on each character, and they all have one ability each, which is like a special ability. Then you have a deck of like assets, so you can give a person a an extra feat or whatever to attach to it, and then everything costs money, so you kind of have to keep on your economy and stuff like that. So and you have like the dice as a counter for health basically, and you have dice
hey,
you throw for like hitting and defending and stuff like that. So
I
it's fairly
wonder if
simple. So
yeah, that's super cool just to even be able to think like that. I don't play enough games, whether they're tabletop, board games, card games, or even video
yeah.
games, enough to really understand the mechanisms behind them. Like I had to really think about like how do games work? Like what is actually happening
Mm,
here? Whereas whenever I've seen so many movies and read so many comics to where it's like that just comes naturally. Like I know what I'm dealing with. I know every aspect
yeah,
involved in the creating the character arcs and creating the actual physical
yeah.
thing. But once it comes to games, it's like for some reason it breaks my brain a little bit. But what
I mean, the more you play, the more you learn. So that I think you just haven't played enough.
no,
That's
exactly.
all.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
Is I have too many other hobbies to where it's like games are
yeah,
the
that's
because
it.
games take so much time. Like I just recently watched. I could talk forever, but my kids are calling me to go to lunch. But one last thing I was gonna note on is like I played the video game Until Dawn back whenever it
Mm.
came out, and I thought it was really cool. I love those kinds of games where it's sort of like choose your own adventure. And then I watched the movie, and
Oh, yeah, I saw the
and I
movie
was
too.
like, oh dang, yeah, it's like the
This
game
is not
is
it.
like I think that was actually a really really good game. And then
Yeah.
B, I think it also just showcases how like a whatever it is, a 12-hour storyline is so much more interesting. And then with all the branching narratives, and then trying to condone that into 2 hours or less is just like you're losing all the sort of fun of it. It makes you really appreciate just
Yeah.
how and that's where I'm at, where it's like if I'm used to sort of the structure and the format of something of a certain pace, to then see sort of something that where you go way more in depth, it's like that's just like,
Mm.
oh dang, that's like trying to compare a picture to a movie, to like, and then a movie to a video game. It's just such more expansive. The components involved in it, just
Also,
like
the
I said, they're
problem with
great.
movies is they're linear. Games are like dynamic in a sense where the player has control over the tempo and the speed of whatever you're doing. In a movie, you're basically just a passive bystander and watching everything unfold. Even
No,
in
yeah.
comics, you're like different because there you control the speed of how quick you read through the panels and stuff like that. So you can't really compare movies to comics and comics to games. They're very different in the way they're experienced. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. They're completely different mediums to be
yeah.
consumed in different ways. But
But
that's
some people don't see that. Like that fucking bugs me. Like when I talk to them, I don't. Comics are like movies, and then that bugs me a lot. Like when people are kind of comparing those two. So
yeah,
yeah,
but to the layman's or whatever, they do just. I've talked about this a lot on my channel where it's like you and I are, deep into this, but some people don't know or really like to them it all just bundles together to where it's like, in my free time, it all is just entertainment. They don't see much of a difference between reading a book or, playing a game with their friends. It's like it all just bundles together of like entertainment, as we talked about at the beginning. Like if you want to say
Yeah.
what's my thing. Um but yeah, so I guess we'll wrap up where I will put the link to the Kickstarter. I'll try to get this uploaded
Cool.
tonight so that it can go live tomorrow morning. And anywhere else, what's your website? Where can anyone else find you?
If anybody wants to reach out, everything's available on kupski.net. I have my socials there. So if anybody wants to reach out, just get a hold of me. I'm usually very, very open with like just discussions and stuff like that. So
All right, perfect. That's Kupski,
KUP, yeah,
Kupski.
yeah.
All righty then. Well, any final words before I let you go?
No, just have fun, enjoy life.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a perfect closer. Yeah, you as well. Have fun, enjoy life.
Yeah.
Don't let any of this other stuff stress you out.